This is video number 2 from my combined lectures 1 and 2 video. So if we move off this slide, and then we kind of break down into the individual type of nutrients. So like I said, the macronutrients are the ones we eat the most of. They don't include water. I mean, they could because we consume a ton of water, eat or drink it. But for some reason, historically, we've always considered fat, carbohydrate, and protein the macronutrients. The big thing is that they provide energy, right? And we know fat is about 9 calories per gram. 1 calorie is an amount of energy that can take 1 gram of water and raise it 1 degree. That's 1 calorie. We don't use calories in nutrition. We actually use kilocalories. So when you say something has like a teaspoon of sugar has 5 calories, technically that's 5,000 little baby calories, the little baby calorie that they use in chemistry. And 1 teaspoon of sugar can take a liter of water if you burn the sugar completely and raise 1 liter of water 5 degrees in temperature. That's kind of what's in a teaspoon of sugar. Fat has the most. Historically, that's why people have cut it out of their diet in terms of cutting away extra calories. Carbohydrates only have 4 calories per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram. In the body, it's not this simple. Carbohydrates tend to raise a hormone called insulin, which many of you have heard of. That has hormonal consequences, which we'll cover in class. And protein, even though it has energy, a lot of times it comes into the body and gets sucked into rebuild and repair functions. So you really don't want to burn protein for energy because, I mean, if it's the wintertime, do you want to burn all your furniture for a fireplace, or do you want to use outside logs to do the burning, right? You don't want to burn your own muscle tissue. Alcohol is not a nutrient, but it is 7 calories per gram. If you drink a lot of alcohol, you're consuming a lot of calories. Now, the baby ones are the micros. We break those into vitamins and minerals. Generally speaking, they provide no energy. Minerals are only ever found in water, so they're only in watery things. We don't find minerals in butter. We do find minerals in vegetables and fruit and meat and whatever. Minerals are inorganic. They never go bad. Iron in an old vitamin pill from 1960 is still good. Vitamin C in an old vitamin pill from 1960 is not good. Vitamins do go bad. They're organic. And vitamins are tricky. They can be found in fat. Fatty things like butter or oils are a good source of some vitamins. Not minerals, but vitamins. But then again, vitamins are also found in watery things. So you can find them in both watery and fat-based foods. This is kind of a cheesy slide. Here's a summary of kind of everything I said. You can just kind of go over it at your own leisure. Okay, and then phytochemicals. They're not vitamins. We don't consider them essential. Raising lab animals in a controlled environment, you don't really need to have phytochemicals, which is odd because the standard chow that we give mice and rats in the laboratory, kind of like typical chow that you give to cats and dogs at home, it probably does have phytochemicals, and those phytochemicals have probably conflicted and confounding science and research for 100 years. Now, when you do animal studies, typically you make your own diet from scratch, and it doesn't have phytochemicals unless you've added them to the diet in a research setting. What do phytochemicals do? They have lots of health functions, right? For the plants, they give the plant an ability to change its color, its taste, its texture, so it wants things to eat it. Like fruit wants to be eaten, so the fruit can be pooped out somewhere else with a seed, and that becomes another fruit plant. Or the plant doesn't want to be eaten. So like tobacco plants, marijuana plants, they're protecting themselves by making these chemicals. What do they do for the human body? They prevent against oxidation, which we'll talk about later in the semester. They may affect your friendly bacteria in your GI tract. They act like hormones. I can tell you for tea and chocolate, they absolutely can decrease blood clotting like an aspirin, and they may improve blood flow, which are very good things for the heart. So I think we need them. I think they're considered the ghost 7th nutrient, but technically they're not a nutrient. In my humble opinion, they ought to be. The problem is there's so many of them. Which ones do you pick and choose? And that's why when it comes down to eating stuff, eat every plant there is, because you don't know what you're eating, and you'll get all the different kind of phytochemicals from all the plants that you do eat. Okay, so let's get into defining a healthy diet. Now that we know what you need to eat, the nutrients, since the 1970s, the U.S. government has tried their best to kind of manipulate Americans, the evil government, to try to eat better. And so they came up with these terms in the 70s, which are still valid today. People need to eat a balanced diet. Yes, you can live off fat. Yes, you can try to live off fat only, but you won't live very long on fat only. We tend to see that healthy people who live into their later years eat fat, carbohydrate, and protein. The amounts can vary, but there's got to be some balance there. Variety. People who eat the most different types of foods. If you're a vegetarian, you've got the entire plant kingdom to choose from. Those folks tend to be healthier later in life. Moderation. Usually we're talking about sodium, alcohol, saturated fat, and some other things. The elderly who tend to live long usually are moderators. If they consume alcohol, they consume little alcohol. If they consume salt, they don't overdo it. Maybe that's why they got to be elderly. And then when you look at the types of food you eat, people who eat the most nutrient-dense foods that don't have a lot of calories but have a lot of stuff, like a glass of milk, that could be almond milk, could be cow's milk, could be oat milk. Generally, we find those promote health versus things that are just empty calories, like soda. What is in soda other than sugar? Yeah, sugar's a carbohydrate. Yeah, you can use it, but you don't need to use it. And so if you just look at healthy people, and the government's been doing this since the 70s, folks who practice balance, variety, moderation, focus on nutrient-dense foods, and limit their energy density foods, excuse me, tend to live the longest with the least disease. Okay, so then we get into requirements. How do you try to recommend an amount of a nutrient for somebody so that they get enough, if you will, and can live long? And so since the 1970s, actually since the 1940s, these have broken into two classifications. Either get enough, like vitamins and minerals, so a certain amount per day, I call that the threshold. Or when it comes to the nutrients, fats, carbohydrates, and protein, get some, have balance, but the amount you consume can vary based on your age. Are you pregnant? Are you a bodybuilder? Are you an elite college runner? So those have ranges, right? The percent of your calories can flex based on your lifestyle. And so since the 1990s, they kind of broke these into these categories, which are still valid. They're kind of boring to learn, but anyways, first thing is you know what? I'm gonna hold here, and we'll start the second video, the third video after this one.